Friends of Jesus, on October 11th, the Church will celebrate St. John XXIII. You see, he was a pope in the last century, and he was only a pope for less than 5 years. But within those 5 years, he did so much as a pope. One of the big things that he called was Vatican II, where all the bishops, the Catholic bishops of the world, would be gathering and making decisions on how the Church would be going forward. And at that very point, the Church during Vatican II, one of the things that actually did is to start to celebrate the Mass, not in Latin, but it was open at that time to celebrate Mass throughout the world in many different languages, in the language of the people. That was one big decision that was decided at that Vatican II, when bishops, all the bishops of the world, were called to meet. And they were summoned by none other but by St. John XXIII. So when we look upon his name, we see, I just used the words 23rd, that would indicate that he was the 23rd Pope that had chosen the name John. You see, he was born as Angelo Giuseppe Roncalli in 1881 in Italy. And then later on, when he was when he was elected to be a pope in 1958 at the conclave, then a pope actually is approached and he's being asked, what name does he choose as pope? And Angelo Giuseppe Roncalli, who at that time was a cardinal in Venice, he chose a name, John. 23rd was assigned because he's the 23rd Pope to choose that name. When we look upon our current Pope, we see that he has chosen the name Francis. And you might be saying, but there's nothing behind Francis. There's no 1, 2, or 3, or 4, or 5. That is because this time the name Francis was never used in the history. Pope Francis is the first Pope to actually use that name. He was himself a cardinal in Argentina, and his name was Mario Bergoglio. That was the name as he was named by his parents at birth, and then later on, as he's asked as a pope to choose a new name, he chose the name Francis because of St. Francis of Assisi. Getting back to our great saint, St. John XXIII. We're so blessed in our Edmonton Catholic schools because one of our schools is actually named after him. He's the patron saint of one of our schools, St. John XXIII. As I've already said, he called that big council, Second Vatican Council, where all the popes, all the bishops of the world, Catholic bishops, have gathered and made decisions on behalf of the faithful. He was, as a pope and as a bishop, he was known to people as very meek and gentle, enterprising and courageous, simple and active. He carried out the Christian duties of the corporal and spiritual works. He visited the sick. He visited those that were imprisoned. He fed the hungry, welcoming those from every nation and from every faith at the same time. He was very well known and loved by the people, and that is why the people, especially once he was a pope and he was visiting all the churches and all the parishes in his diocese, which would be of Rome, he got to be known as the good pope. He was also sustained by a profound spirit of prayer. He died in the year 1963, and only after 5 years of his pontificate as being a pope, and then later on he was beatified or canonized as a saint in 2014, at the same time as St. John Paul II became a saint. A saint in our midst, a saint from the 20th century, who was called by God, didn't have much, but offered so much of his life to the church, to the people of God, who actually in the end called him the good Pope. So, as we celebrate this great saint who's a witness. All the saints are witnesses on our journey to heaven. We are here on this earth so that one day, when that day comes, sometimes it is 70, 80, 90, or 100 years that we get to live, that we're blessed. But then when that journey, this earthly journey finishes, we are called to heavenly journey to join all the saints and angels, Mother of God, and God himself in heaven.